Welcome, 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 welcome. Hello out there, YouTube, or wherever you are watching or listening to this broadcast from. I am your host, Yasheka Foster, and welcome, welcome to my part or my piece of the cyber world. This channel will be dedicated to something that you guys, I think it's something that's needed in the community. I think it's something that you're going to enjoy. I think it's something that I wish that I had coming up, or even just a couple of years ago when I was raising my oldest boys, or my middle boy, right? But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. Again, my name is Yasheka Foster. I am a retired military officer, Army officer, served 25 years. Like I said, I have two boys that I had through marriages. I've been married twice and divorced twice. I'm going to talk about that too, because that's a thing that needs to be talked about. The fact that I've been married and divorced twice, and where I'm at now in those processes, right? So I have a son with each husband. I have a 28-year-old and a 20-year-old. And then I have a 9-year-old adopted daughter who's also my second cousin by blood, who I've had since she was about 2 weeks old. And all these stories will be talked about on this here platform. You will hear me talk about these stories. I will give you guys examples of everything. Listen, I have been in every situation imaginable when it comes to a type of relationship. Okay. After I had my first son, like I said, I divorced the first time, and then I got married a second time. So I got with my second husband, and he came to the relationship with two daughters, one from a marriage and one from a previous relationship. And so I have also played the role of a stepmom, or being in a nuclear family or a combined family, or my mother, and not to mention my mother was a teenage mother and she was a single parent, and now I'm a single parent. So whatever relationship dynamic you can think of, I've been a part of it. Okay. I've been a part of it. I've been a part of it. So this is where we will talk about all those things, right? Now, another thing about me, for those of you who need receipts, because I know how the internet world is, people are looking at it like, okay, who are you and why is it that I should listen to you? Because what are your credentials? So I got my receipts. And if you don't believe me, you can Google me. Okay. I have a master's degree in marriage and family counseling, as well as a bachelor's degree in psychology. So I got a little something, everything. Not to mention, I am a certified life coach. So I come with the receipts, and if you need to see them, I think one day this little space right here, let me see, somewhere right here, right here, right here. I might just put them up there for those naysayers who may come along and want to see. All right. So anyway, that's that. So what is this really about? What am I doing here? Why am I taking up this space on the internet? I want to introduce to you something that we have coined: hood parenting. Hood parenting. And before I really get into what hood parenting really is, let me give you what the definition of hood, to my understanding, right? If you go to Webster or online or anywhere and Google the word hood, you're going to see all kind of definitions, but I'm just going to tell you my definition of what hood means. For me, hood means that I have the ability to use all of my senses in order to understand perspective. Okay. Do you understand that? In other words, I don't just use my eyes and say, okay, you know what I see is true. Because I know sometimes my eyes play tricks on me, right? I also use my ears because I need to understand what I hear, right? What did I hear? What did I see? All right. And then after all that, what does my brain say? Does my brain tell me that something is BSing me right now? Does my brain tell me that something is not real here? And then what does my gut tells me? Okay. That's the thing that drives it home for me, is my gut. If my gut tells me to get the heck up out of Dodge, then guess what? I'm gone. I'm gone. So I'm gone. I'm gone. So that's what hood means. Hood means using all your senses to understand perspective and get to an answer. That's what it means. So when you guys think about hood, sometimes you think about hood in relation to the ghetto, right? Now the ghetto is a whole different meaning, but for whatever reason, people like to put it within a certain culture or a certain demographic of people. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Y'all know which demographic, all right? So let me explain to you. I am from the hood. I am born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I am from the hood. However, I am not from the ghetto. Not that anything wrong with if a person is from the ghetto. I'm just not from the ghetto, right? And so my mother was on welfare all my life. However, she never raised us in the ghetto because she was able to make sure that we lived in a certain particular neighborhood. So for us in Detroit, we never lived in the ghetto, but we are from the hood, right? So although I'm from the hood, I wasn't from the ghetto, right? If you can understand the difference. Now, did I come from a low income area? Absolutely. Absolutely, I came from a low income area because my mother literally was on welfare, like I said before. So it's not like we lived in the suburbs, right? So we were in a low income area, but it was not considered the ghetto, but it was the hood. Now, since then, I'm no longer in a low income area, right? A few things have happened. I have went off and did some amazing things in the world. I've conquered some things. I've done some things. I've served this great nation or whatever, right? I've done some things. And so I now sit in the suburbs. But what I've noticed is that there are things that I learned from the hood that is missing in the kids in the suburbs, right? Because sometimes I look at my kids and I have this little saying that I'll say to them, I believe that a person can sell you a wooden nickel. Okay. In other words, you would think somebody is telling you the truth about something that I can see BS from a mile away. So it's like I forgot to tell my kids that part of life. I forgot to teach them about recognizing gain or recognizing things that go on in the world that I feel like you have to have a certain street sense in order to really see it, right? And here's the thing, that street sense comes from being in the hood, right? That street sense come from some type of disadvantage, right? That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. You are at a disadvantage in other areas. So because you are in a disadvantage in other areas, your other senses are heightened, right? It's almost like when they say a person who is blind for whatever reason has like ears that can hear from well far away, right? Or vice versa, right? Someone who doesn't have hands can use their feet to do things. And then people who do have hands will look at them like, how is that possible? Because they have certain heightened skills. And so I think that's what it means being from the hood, because you have been deprived of certain things or you didn't have certain things. You were literally working from a place of struggle, a place of survival mode. And so because of it, you had to be on your P's and Q's about everything, right? You had to make sure that your senses was in tune. Like you had to make sure that your head was always on a swivel, right? You could not sit back and be eaten. You had to be the person that did what you did, because if not, you would be destroyed. And that's what it means being from the hood. That's what it means. And I think that a lot of the kids don't have this today, right? Because I think that a lot, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not that I need them to know what it's like to struggle, because that's not what I'm saying. I don't want my kids to necessarily know what it's like to struggle. But what I do want them to understand is that not everybody is your friend. Not everybody has your best intentions, right? Because the world does not start off on an even field for everybody. It doesn't start off the same for everybody, right? You got people that are born into millions, right? You got people that are born into, certain situations, right? You got people who are born into poverty. You got some people that are just born into certain areas that we don't all start off fair. We don't all start off on the same even keel, right? And so because some of us start off at a disadvantage, I think that once we get to a place where we feel like we're at more of an advantage, we start to forget those skills. And so when it comes to our children up under us, sometimes I think that that's one of the reasons why they're not really able to just go off and do things in the world, especially with this new generation, the millennials, right? The littlest thing that, and I'm not just coming from the millennials, okay? I'm just telling y'all what I see, because I have millennials as children. And so I just see how, the littlest thing, they just get thrown off, or they just don't know how to more like conflict resolve or problem solve, right? It's like they just don't know. And I wonder if I failed them or society failed them or both, right? But I also know that as a parent, I can't teach them everything that they need to know, because while I'm trying to put food on the table and clothes on the back and a roof over a head, to do all those things means that I'm gone from the house for several hours a day. And then my job as a service member, I was gone for 15 hours a day. And so by the time I got home, it was more or less like, okay, let's get the homework done. Let's go ahead and get ready for bed because we got school in the morning and there's nothing else, right? There's nothing else. We'll talk about if there's an emergency, let's put a band-aid on it and keep going, right? And I saw that a lot in other families, not just my own, not just military families, but people around me, people who I see who have other jobs, right? It's that way because we know what the struggle is like. So we don't want to go back there. So at the minimum, we want to stay here. And so while we're here, that means that we can't be as involved as maybe our parents were who didn't work, or maybe one parent worked and the other stayed home, or maybe the welfare was of means. I don't know, right? But we had more hands-on. It was more of a community effort to raise us, whereas that now people are just doing it alone. And so this channel is dedicated to those things that I wish that my parents had told me, or things that I wish that I had told my children. And so I would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, because this is Hood Parenting, and I'm your host, Yasheka Foster. Stay tuned for more. Bye.